Did you know that Ryan Coogler and Ludwig Göransson went to USC together? That's where they met.
He scored all of Coogler's films since they were making short films at college.
It's crazy. It blew my mind. I had no idea. So they have this strong kinship, this strong relationship, and it translates so well. They're sort of like co-authors on all their stories because the music is so integral to a lot of film, especially with Ryan Coogler's movies. And the music in Sinners is fantastic. I love this movie. It was so fun. The vampire genre has been in such a decline the last 10 years. There really are no standouts. And I guess the best one's probably Dr. Sleep, if you want to consider those vampires to an extent. But it's really just been a dying sort of folklore genre for me, I think, except for Nosferatu.
I was waiting for I was like, holy shit.
I
was like waiting.
I can see you. Nosferatu. Sorry.
I'm going to disagree right now. Vampire fans are eating good because we got Nosferatu and then Sinners. I think
I'm talking about the last 10 years.
You're still just like trying to get over Renfield. It's still just...
Tell me all the great vampire movies the last 10 years besides Nosferatu and Sinners, please.
Nosferatu and Sinners.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking the last 7 months, Anthony. Not even the last 5 months they've been eating good. Previous 10 years.
I'm just saying the downward trend's over.
Hopefully, because Sinners.
Come on, 2 movies means there's a new trend. There's a new trend.
Not necessarily.
Come on, 2 movies.
There's a peak, a temporary peak. Hopefully, it gets better. But I really enjoyed Sinners. This is one of my most hyped and one of the most hyped movies of 2025 in general. Coogler getting away from IPs, doing an original story that he wrote, based with family ties in his past and in his family tree, which is really interesting. We'll get into details about that. But I love seeing Coogler get rid of IP, get out of the IP jungle and do something unique. You know, his first film, Fruitvale Station, his first feature, non-IP based. Then he's doing Black Panther movies as well as Rocky Creed movies for a while. But now he's out of the IP hustle and makes a flat-out fantastic movie with some really, really stellar cinematography and visuals and some shockingly original moments.
If there's one thing, if you could think of one word to define Coogler as a filmmaker, I'm trying, because he's got an eclectic filmography now, 5 films deep. You got to, I think like the best way to describe him is, or is it 4 films? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is his 5th film. Mm-hmm. Culture, Sinners, in Black Panther, Creed, Fruitvale. What's made him special as a filmmaker is he's told all sorts of kinds of stories in different genres. You get the sci-fi fantasy with the superheroes. You get the sports drama with Creed, and you get the intense family drama in Fruitvale Station, and now a vampire film. But he still makes everything he does wholly unique in his own through culture and infusing so much culture into the Black Panther films, and then in Sinners, really throwing in his background, his history, and as well as the cultures of that world in that area of the times in the 1930s in this place in America. And it really set itself apart from other vampire movies. And I kept thinking of one other movie while watching this film, and it was From Dusk Till Dawn, because Robert Rodriguez did the same thing. He infused his culture into a vampire film. We get a Mexican vampire film with From Dusk Till Dawn, and it was just fantastic. You've never seen a vampire film like that. And then with Sinners, never seen a vampire film like this. And we've had vampire stories told kind of in this area, around this era. Interview with the Vampire, some of it set in the South during the late 1800s.
Also Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana.
Even though it takes place in Mississippi, it was shot in Louisiana.
But this film is just very much its own thing, and he infused so much incredible rich detail and history into this film. And as well, like you said, connecting the idea of music through generations as well as music through cultures, and connecting vampires, Jack O'Connell's character as well as the other characters in this film, and bringing the music of their past into the present. And obviously, we can talk about later on the big scene in this film, which really integrates the growth of culture over generations into even the future and present, which is a really interesting sequence. There's a great scene halfway through the film. Overall, this film was extremely creative, so artistic, beautifully shot on both the IMAX film format and Ultra Panaivision 70, 65 millimeter super wide. And it was just a sight to behold. The craftsmanship, costume design. Warner Brothers gave him a ton of money and gave him free reign to do his thing. And you'd like to see that more. They did it with PTA, with One Battle After Another, which we'll see later this year at the end of September. But this is an example of, the old studio system of, championing great original artists and giving them a lot of money to make a cool vision. And it really, I think it overall was a huge success. and a win all around.
Real quick before we continue on Sinners, check out this awesome movie poster of Sinners that I have behind me on the set. This was given to us by movieposters.com. Use our coupon code Raiders10 to get 10% off your order today. We also have an affiliate link with movieposters.com. You can find that in the description of this episode on YouTube or Spotify and Apple, plus in our Instagram bio. If you click that link, the top feed will have our affiliate link. It gives us 10% commission on all orders used with our link, and then use our code Raiders10 to get 10% off. It's a win-win-win for everybody. And just to stay on culture for a sec, because obviously capturing 1932 Mississippi, segregation in the South, it's really important to know, just because slavery was abolished doesn't mean much changed. And obviously a lot of movies have explored that, but Coogler wanted to explore that with this film, specifically with his ties to his grandfather or his uncle who grew up in this era around that time in that area, but also the infusion of Chinese cultures as well, plus the infusion and the connection between Irish culture for sure. We have Irish vampires in this movie, which is really fascinating. And Coogler does a great job taking the Irish and black cultures, two cultures and communities that were under harsh rule for centuries and control for centuries. Obviously slavery in America, but also the Irish in UK controlled for hundreds and hundreds of years. The Scots as well. Fighting
Damn
until
England.
They didn't get their independence until the 1900s.
Fucking Great Britain.
You know what I mean? So in connecting those two cultures through their hardships, which are comparable in different ways and also incomparable in different ways, but then connecting it through music. And what I loved with that was using the Irish step dance and the great Irish music and connecting that to great jazz music and black musicians from the past, and sort of just making it one community in a way, which is really fascinating, connecting these communities, which I think was one of my favorite parts of the film.
There's actually a line Jack O'Connell's character says, Remick, I love Jack O'Connell, and I'm glad he's in a big movie that the world can see him.
So talented.
He's been like a really great actor in Europe for a while. He does a lot of TV and miniseries in the UK and stuff, but he's a phenomenal talent, and he really got to showcase his range as an actor. I've always been a huge fan of his since Warhorse and then Start Up, and he was in a couple of great films the last couple of years.
Unbroken was a big lead for him too.
Unbroken as well. So he's a phenomenal actor, and he really brought it as the main antagonist of this movie. And and they did a great job not spoiling anything about him. We just got a little tease of him in the trailers. The marketing for Warner Brothers knocked it out of the park, not giving anything away. And his character in particular, who ended up obviously playing a huge role in this film as the big bad. And he worked so well opposite Michael B. Jordan, who I thought was brilliant. But Jack O'Connor's character, Remick, actually dates himself. It's like with vampires, if it's not specifically stated, you could always wonder how old is this vampire when you meet them. And he actually dated himself to be around 1,300 years old, because he said the Christians took my land. And that in 1,300 years ago about is when Christians invaded Ireland and took over Ireland, ended up like changing their religion there. So he dated himself to be many centuries old, which is really cool. I love it when the idea of someone who's traveled through time, who's just seen every era. He's got old gold from who knows where the gold is from. It's from a different time and a different place.
Different area.
Yeah. So I love that idea with the vampires. And so Coogler did a great job of infusing his own things, as well as, hitting a lot of the beats you want and you kind of need in a vampire film. It all meshed together really well.
It's a movie mashup, a genre mashup. This could have worked so well if he wanted to, just as a gangster movie. A sort of gangster movie, segregation movie, South America 1930s movie would have been, like, that's what the first half of this movie is.
Yeah, the framework in the end.
And the world building by Coogler is just fantastic, but it could have operated so well as just a gangster movie, but then the second half of the movie, it turns into supernatural, magical, vampire folklore movie, which is just even more fun combining both of those together. But it's a really cool genre mashup, and right now, this movie's getting incredible scores. It's 7.8 on IMDb, which I think is a really good rating for this film.
That's actually an 8.1 right now.
8.1, okay.
Yeah, bumped
it
up.
Just got released, but we saw it like 4 or 5 days ago at an early screening. Thanks IMAX for the invites. Rotten Tomatoes, it is a 97% critic score, 98% audience score, so everyone's liking Sinners. Letterboxd to 4.1. This had a huge budget, like Anthony said, of $90 million. It's projecting a box office opening domestically of around $50 million, which is really good for a rated R vampire movie, original vampire IP. That's a really fantastic opening. This movie's coming out It came out last weekend. We're filming it on Friday, so we don't know exact numbers on the box office, but that's a really good performance right now, just off projections. Quick synopsis: trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. Written and directed by Ryan Coogler. I really enjoyed this film. And I think that the world building, like I said, is fantastic. With this opening in 1932, we have Smoke and Stack, these two twin brothers who are from this town, who have gone for the last 7 years to Chicago to try to live as gangsters and try to find out if the rest of the country is any different than the South, where they discover it's not much different. It's just they got taller buildings. So they hatch a plan where they basically rob the Irish and Italian gangs against each other, framing each other for stealing, wine and booze and beer, and coming back to their hometown to start their own little jukebox nightclub, which is really cool. They buy a sawmill from a man who supposedly retired from the KKK, but is secretly the Grand Master. Is that what it is? The Grand Master? Is that what they call it?
I don't know.
That's what he said.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he's still the Grand something of the KKK.
Yeah.
And obviously, it turns into a vampire film. But this movie has so many different kinds of evil in it, and obviously that is one of them as well. The segregation, white supremacy, KKK are probably a bigger villain than the vampires in this film, because the vampires, I think Coogler did a great job infusing so much empathy inside of them, because at the end of the day, they just want to get their community together. They want to get their community back. They're doing this out of love. They've found freedom. These communities, the Irish and the black people of these countries, have found freedom through being undead in a lot of ways.
And joining up together to become their own community. And it's once Remick and eventually, which one is it? Stack is the one who gets turned?
Stack, yeah.
Stack's the red one.
Stack is the red twin. Smoke is the blue twin.
Okay. Once Stack is trying to talk to Smoke, and you're getting a sense for, like, I can kind of get behind the idea of all of these people who have been abused and dominated by others together. They're like a motley crew of outcasts who, and Remick is trying to build like a giant family. You can kind of understand where he's coming from, which I think obviously makes a great villain when you can empathize with what he's trying to do and what he's trying to do there. And also the connection through blending the cultures together through music, through dance is fantastic. And I really got to say, Michael B. Jordan's become one of the preeminent stars in Hollywood. He's always been a great talent. And I've been waiting for him to do something like this because he's so good. But as a leading man, you do tend to, when you want to be the leading man star in Hollywood, you do have to take certain kinds of roles. You're not taking the character piece roles. You're not taking the really interesting supporting roles. You know what I mean? And so Sinners really let him stretch his acting range and show off his incredible abilities. I gotta say, he really disappeared into this movie as both these roles. And by the way, twin movies are eating good this year. We got Mickey 17 and 7
crazy.
In Sinners, it's just great. And
that's not the only one. There's more. Twinless is going to come out later. That was at Sundance, as well as Elle Fanning's playing twins in Predator Badlands. There's
she and the Predator are twins, right?
Fraternal, obviously. But there's literally, I think, 2 or 3 other twin movies that are coming out this year.
And so Michael B., I think, was just amazing in this film. He's a great leading man. Did
you see the rig he was wearing for behind the scenes?
No, explain it.
So he was actually on set acting with this. I can't remember what they called it, but I saw some behind the scenes photos of usually when they do face replacement, starting back with Benjamin Button in not Zodiac, but Social Network, they would have a double, and they would have the actor just go into that crazy booth that takes 100 photos of you from every angle with all the lights, and then they superimpose your facial expressions onto the stunt double, or you are acting and they're taking your face and putting it there. So there's different ways to do it, but it's a new technology where they were using on this film. Michael B's actually wearing like this cage around his head of cameras picking up sort of a bit of mocap mixed with that other method that was sort of the early stages of facial recognition, facial capture. And so he's acting on set with this like thing around his head.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you gotta look at BTS photos. It's pretty interesting.
This up.
I can't remember what the rig's called, but it's the first time it was ever used for a movie.
Wow, that's interesting.
Also, a first for this movie, just to stay on technical specs, First time a movie was ever combined 65 millimeter film as well as Ultra Panavision wide for a movie to be used at the same time in the same film. And obviously there's an aspect ratio change in this film, especially if you see this in a true IMAX screen, because 65 millimeter IMAX projected 70 millimeter in theaters combined with Ultra Panavision, first time ever combined for a movie. So it alternates from 1431 to 2761, which is super wide. Ultra Panavision, the last movie to be shot with that was The Hateful Eight with Tarantino, but great movies from the past like Ben-Hur was shot with this super widescreen formats. But then also with IMAX, when the aspect ratio changed, it was very noticeable in the IMAX theater. But after the first few, it blended seamlessly for me. My brain got hooked right away.
And they used it, you got used to it, and also I really liked it because it opened up the frame for certain sequences. And it really worked because, like, the opening was all IMAX. And then, like, the big dance oneer, the cultural generational jump blending time periods, that was all in the IMAX frame, as well as a few other action sequences. So it wasn't jarring because it's almost as... And my favorite bit was... when one of the characters invited all the vampires into the warehouse.
Come on in, you motherfuckers!
And then everybody stands up in a hero pose and the camera frames behind everybody with the door in front of them. And as the door is being opened, the wide, super wide frame expands into the IMAX frame. And it was just a really I thought it was great. They've done it a couple of times in the past. Mission Impossible did it when Tom Cruise stepped out of the Burj Khalifa and the frame opened up in that same way. But it's really fantastic because it gets you ready for something epic is about to happen. And when that frame transition was taking place, I was like, oh yeah, let's go. That's great.
You brought up From Dusk Till Dawn earlier. That was actually one of Coogler's main inspirations for this film. Big fan Robert Rodriguez films. Also, The Faculty that Robert Rodriguez made was a huge influence for this movie as well. You can clearly see the connections there for sure. And The Faculty is a really, really cool movie. Awesome young cast as well. I mean, Elijah's before Lord of the Rings, like a couple years before, super, super young in this. Josh Hartnett's in that movie too. So I really like The Faculty. I've always liked it. But then From Dusk Till Dawn, I think, was everyone's sexual awakening with Salma Hayek. But that movie's just so fun and stylized. And I think that's what he was going for this film, is just get very stylized and go hardcore. The world building for me in the opening 20 minutes was astounding. I was smiling ear to ear, I think, for the first 15 minutes of this movie, because this is pure cinema. This is the juice right here. It reminded me sort of Killers of the Flower Moon, because that movie, similar time period, and I felt a connection there because, not a ton of movies shoot in this time period every year, but to do big spectacle filmmaking, huge production with a brilliant filmmaker, I felt the opening, felt a bit at first like Killers of the Flower Moon in such a good way. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, with the cars driving, especially in the locations.
Coogler, you could tell, is clearly a fan of old cinema, because we've gotten to this era in the modern contemporary times of filmmaking where movies have to move so fast, and your first act, people want certain beats to happen for plot being driven forward and catalysts. But some of the greatest movies ever made, they have long first acts before the action starts, before the narrative starts driving forward. And that's the world building, that's the character building. And I think that we've lost that in so many modern films where, they want things to happen within 10 minutes. But, for the first 25 minutes of this movie, you're just getting a sense for what this community is, who these characters are. And it doesn't have anything to do with vampires yet. They're setting up who these guys are. They're trying to put together a juke. They've come into some money, and the first act is about putting this soiree on last minute to make it the big opening night soiree.
Wow.
And this is what great storytelling is. You just take your time. We don't have to rush into action happening. And there is some conflict. There's some action that does happen in the first act, but it isn't like I feel like if most other filmmakers, if they had this idea and wanted to tell a similar story, it would have been like okay, vampires show up and start attacking within at least 40 minutes.
Well, so what I really liked about it is it didn't follow the typical vampire blueprints. I mean, I feel like The Lost Boys was definitely a huge influence on this movie, clearly with the music, especially when we get to the vampire sequences, plus the glowing red eyes. You know, I felt a real kinship to that great 80s vampire flick, which is just such a special place in my heart, rocking the shirt
yeah,
right
you got
now.
it on right now. Oh, keep it with the red eyes right there.
I love The Lost Boys. But Lost Boys, in a great way, follows that great horror movie formula. There's an opening attack, and then it leads to the rest of the film. This movie, there's no vampires for like 35, 40 minutes.
You get flashes.
Little flashes, but also
in Sammy's head.
little teases of magic for sure. And obviously the opening of him walking into the church covered in blood with the scratch marks on his face, which we know was probably from a vampire. But I think it was really great to not have a vampire attack in the opening of the movie.
Yeah, it was a really strong opening because it opened with a great wonder of Sammy driving up to what we end up seeing is the chapel that his father preaches at, and he's covered in blood, scratched up. He's carrying the guitar because you're like, what the fuck happened to this guy? And then we're getting just little quick flashes of like, an attack of vampires, and then we get like it's like like less than a second of frames of one of the vampires slashing his face, and we're like, oh shit. Something happened to him last night. There were some vampires last night. So it was great. And I think it was important to get that in because vampires don't show up until Jack O'Connell shows up at like 40 minutes in. And so with that little setup of this, it was like 3 quick little flashes in his head of his memory of the night before. It gets the audience's appetite of, okay, there's going to be some crazy shit happening, but we're going to wait until then. And you know what? I was happy to wait because I love the characters and I love the world building. And this, honestly, this movie felt so much like an old Hollywood movie to me, the way people spoke. It felt like, for me, Coogler's dialogue was very old era in terms of relationships, dynamics, and how they spoke and what the characters were. It felt like Golden Age Hollywood, the romances, the betrayals, the backstories. In a lot of ways, you say it mashed together a bunch of genres and great vampire films, but I also think it mashed up, the storytelling techniques of old Hollywood in really fun ways. And I felt like Haley Stanfield in the train station, in the way she's speaking, it's like it feels like this is like it could have been like made in the 50s, the way they're talking. You know what I mean? So I really liked that, and I appreciated it because it didn't feel like the dialogue was too modernized, too fast, too snappy. It felt like how people spoke many, many decades ago.
Sure. I believe, did you say Stanfield? It's Steinfeld. Yeah. You better get it
Haley
right.
Stanfield?
The boys are going to come for you, man.
Haley Steinfeld?
Josh Allen's going to come after you. But she's great. The rest of the cast is awesome. Miles Caton, who plays Sammy Moore, the young version, this is his first acting role.
His voice.
Yeah, that's how Coogler found
my
him.
God.
He was auditioning, and he obviously wanted to find a musician.
Uh-huh.
And he was talking about in an interview about Miles' audition tape, and he said it was dark. He didn't have a light on, but it just fit the vibe so well, and it was atmospheric and moody. And he had just the voice, this talent, and he's just got loads of talent, and it's incredible. There's this deep, bluesy voice. Even his talking voice is very deep.
Yeah.
But man, he's doing this. He's basically the lead of the movie in a lot of ways. You could argue, are the twins the leads? Is Smoke the lead? Or is Sammy the lead? A lot of the ways you could look at Sammy as the lead of the movie. It begins and ends with him, technically. It's bookended with Sammy in a lot of ways. Plus, it sort of highlights his story of, obviously we were kind of spoiling this movie a little bit already, but we're going to get into heavy spoiler. Yeah, we're going to get into heavy spoiler territory. Not quite that far, and we're 24 minutes.
Okay,
in.
we're 24 minutes. I'm sorry, I was 6 minutes off.
Obviously ends with Sammy surviving this horrible night after he had the best day of his life, he talks about, until nightfall, and he had the worst night of his life. It's haunted him in this whole time. However, it ends with him in this huge time jump, and I think the time jumps were one of the more interesting parts of this movie because, I think when you're doing a genre piece, especially a period genre piece, whether it's thriller, sci-fi, or horror, I think the safest thing to do is stay in that time period. You don't want to change too much, or if you time jump 10, 20 years, something like that. But I think it was so bold outside of that, Coogler, one of the best scenes he's ever done with that time mashup of centuries to time jump 60 years to the future. our past of Sammy being a famous blues musician and guitarist, ripping guitar on stage, and obviously post-credit scene meeting Stack.
90s wardrobe. I love it.
Wardrobe,
The
which is
90s,
great.
man.
But I thought that was such a bold thing to do and such an impressive thing to do in terms of creative control, because it's not safe. It's very risky, I think, to take your audience out of this time period that we just fell in love with being in. You know, it was so romantic to be in the 1930s with all the wardrobe, the sets, the props, everything. Obviously, it's a terrible time period in this country, in this state, specifically in the country, in 1930 segregation. But there's something alluring about this time period that's just so fascinating, and it's like exploring history in a fascinating way. But to take your audience out of that in a very strong, jarring way, I thought was very brave and risky, but I think he pulled it off really well.
Yeah, I can't think of anything since Interview with the Vampire that's done it like that.
Yeah, me neither.
Because Interview with the Vampire is obviously framed around the present day with Christian Slater's journalist character interacting and interviewing Brad Pitt's character.
Doesn't end well for him.
Doesn't, yeah. Well, no, it does end well for him.
Yeah, I guess.
Lestat gives him the choice. I'm giving you the choice I never had.
Yeah, that's a good
You know
point.
what I mean? So he's turning Christian into a vampire. It's going to work out. But I mean, you see Lestat like from 400 years ago, and then at the end of the movie, he's driving a convertible.
Yeah.
So it's fun how that movie bounced around time periods, and then I thought it was really great how it jumped forward to see, and it was like once we saw old Sammy, I was like, we gonna see the others?
Yeah, but Interview with the Vampire, it's a bit of a constant crosscut.
Yes, yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Versus like the entire film almost is in this time period virtually, and then a massive time jump at the end.
Now, speaking of twins, there were a pair of twins who helped as consultants on this film.
It was not us.
It was not us.
Twin consultants, I love that.
Gallagher twins, who are friends of Ryan Coogler's, filmmaker friends of his, and he and Michael B. Jordan often used them as consultants on this film about the twin dynamics. We never got a text, but it's okay, guys. It's okay. And so these two actually share a cell phone. These two twins.
Wow, they're really...
Yeah, they're really. I don't want to share a cell phone with you,
That's
man.
really intense.
No offense, but I'm not doing that.
I'm gonna share everything.
But they helped create a sense of understanding for how the closeness of twins, the relationships between twins, and how it is different from any other sibling relationship. And you definitely see that with Michael B. Jordan's performance. And I loved it because the marketing was great for this film, because I was like, is the red twin going to be a villain? Ultimately, yeah, he ends up becoming a vampire, but is he really a villain?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah, but like I thought.
No, I mean, like, yeah, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like, is he going to be a problem before he's a vampire?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I did like how they have like this. It's not like dark and light, but they have just very different personalities.
So yeah, so Smoke is the older
Yeah.
brother. He's sort of the lead of the movie. He's often with the blue color scheme, the blue flat cap and the hat. He's got a bit more serious of a demeanor, and he's more protective of his brother and his family, more reserved personality, but
Yeah.
he surprisingly has... I thought the red brother would be the more impulsive and crazier one, because red's more of like that color associated with that kind of personality trait, if you could argue. Whereas Smoke, I mean, he pulls out the gun in the middle of the town and shoots two people just to prove a point and prove that he's back. So I was surprised in a good way that Smoke had that kind of personality trait, even though that's usually associated with a red color. And I feel like, and then Stack is the younger twin. He's red hat, red color scheme. He's more outgoing, more charismatic, his personality. He's a bit more of a rogue and willing to take risks, and it likes to have a little more fun.
I would say what really worked for this was because I was like, oh, is one twin going to be the good twin, one twin the evil twin? You know, there's that joke. People always ask us who's the evil twin. But, you know, like you said, Smoke, you wouldn't say he's the good twin or one or the other, because they're both morally gray. They're not like good people. You know, they're murderers. They're murderers. They're gangsters. They kill for money. And then Stack is trying to pay his what's the character's name? Is it Ruthie?
What character?
Beatrice. Stack's lady.
Okay.
And she's like, I don't want your dirty money. That's blood money.
That's
like,
Smoke's lady.
Yeah, Smoke's lady.
Stack is Haley.
Oh, right. Never mind. Okay, so Smoke's trying to pay her with his money. She's like, I don't want that money. Because in a way, sinners isn't just the vampires. It's, you know, everybody sins. We're all sinners in a way. So I like how it wasn't like they're truly good hero characters, you know, but they're guys who grew up in a rough world, and they had to become this way to survive in order to get something from themselves. and they were raised in a dark world, and so they resorted to obviously becoming criminals to get their shot at doing something.
Did you notice the great nod to From Dusk Till Dawn with Stack's wardrobe after he turns into a vampire?
Shirtless vest?
Danny Trejo from Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, shirtless vest.
Trejo, a black leather vest. That's what Trejo wears in From Dusk Till Dawn. And when Stack becomes a vampire, that's his wardrobe for the rest of the film. And it's such a good look. It's so badass, and I thought it worked so well. Michael B., the biceps were bulging,
he's getting
chest
big.
was out, and man, the black vest looked so cool. So I think that was such a cool nod to that vampire movie. That was
That's
a huge
a great
influence on this
pickup.
movie. Yeah,
that's a really great
I
pickup.
thought of it immediately.
And I gotta say, I was really impressed with Haley
Why can't you say Steinfeld?
Haley Steinfeld.
Are you okay?
Oh my God! Yeah, I'm fine. I thought she did a great job in this film. I like this movie was sexy.
It's hot.
There's a lot of sex in this movie. We
Yeah.
had 3 sex scenes.
Lots of positions.
Yeah, every position imaginable, and it was great. I thought it was fantastic. I was like, "Yeah, Coogler, he's getting it."
Haley Steinfeld
It's done.
spitting in Michael B. Jordan's mouth.
Yeah, I was like, "Wow!" They went. He's not holding back. It was fun.
Baby, you're drooling.
You want some?
I love that aspect of vampires.
because he didn't hold back. And if you want to make a crazy vampire movie, just go full tilt, go dial it to 10, and people have sex. People do this. It happens. It's okay to put it in movies once in a while, and it's just like I really found it so refreshing. I was like, there was one sex scene, then there was another sex scene. I was like, there's a lot of sex in this movie. James, although there are no boobs, James.
It's fine.
Were you okay with that?
Yeah, Haley Steinfeld spit in Michael B. Jordan's mouth. That's fine.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, but I was like, oh man, that's awesome.
It's funny because we get such funny comments, and we always talk about how sex has just been not secretly, it's just been kind of disappearing from movies in general, in Hollywood specifically. And someone said recently, unsubscribe for spoiling that sex is great. But I would love to talk about the vampires for a bit.
Yeah,
and just the creature design. I thought it was so good. The vampire rules here are very much attuned to folklore that we all know. Garlic is bad, holy water is bad. Those are their big weaknesses. The sun is a strong weakness against them. But then Coogler playing around with the supernatural element, and magic is real in this world, which is so fun. I think Coogler's just having a good time. He's like, if we're going to do vampires, let's make magic real. Let's make this mojo necklace actually have magic inside of it, which prevents Stack from actually biting Smoke at the end of the film. It's a protective sort of shield against it, if you noticed. And then he obviously takes it off before he passes away and dies to be with his family in the afterlife, which I thought was very special. And so I love the creature design of the vampires because they can just look normal. They can heal quickly, obviously. But they also, when they're going full vampire, their eyes can glow red in the dark, which is so fascinating, sort of like shining a light in like a leopard's eyes.
Red for Remick because he's the
leader?
king.
Yeah,
vampire.
the other ones are like gold.
Gold, yeah,
like
light gold, yeah.
Goldish white glow in their eyes. Sort of like a replicant in Blade Runner in a way, a bit.
Yeah.
Also, just not a lot stronger.
So Coogler said he was inspired by Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Yeah. For Death.
Yeah, Death has the red glowing eye in that.
Exactly. And so I love the red glowing eyes for Remick and the glowing eyes for the other ones. And then like when, what's his name? The door guy goes to take a piss. Cornbread goes to take a piss, and then you see the glowing eyes. Cornbread,
how does he still look 25?
He looks good.
Fucking Remember the Titans. I mean, not Remember the Titans, the other one. And he still looks so young. Oh my God.
Also, we got glimpses of them floating. We never got to see them flying, which I don't think you needed. But we saw them, Haley, or who was it, Remick, floated in the air. When someone turned their back to him, which was cool. Then it cut really quickly. They're not overpowered strength-wise, I think, which is a good thing because they can be too powerful sometimes in other vampire movies.
I'd say they had human strength in this, maybe a little bit more.
I'd say more than human strength because they can float. So I'd say they're stronger than humans a bit, but not too much.
Yeah, humans can't float.
But I love the look of their fangs, and it wasn't just the cliche, just 2 fangs. It was sort of all of their teeth growed a little bit, but their obviously canines were a bit longer.
They grew a little bit.
Grew a little bit. Their canines were longer than the rest of their teeth.
Yeah.
Their claws were so long, which I loved so much, and that was a great part of the vampires as well. But again, I like the idea of them trying to build this community based on love and trying to build a family. Plus, they explain what it's like being a vampire. They're not taking over the soul. They're sharing the soul of the human that they've taken over. And that soul is trapped basically with that vampire until they're freed of the burden of being trapped. So kind of a bit like Get Out in a way, with sort of your souls being stuck inside your own body. You can't perceive anything, I'm sure, But the only way to be freed of the curse and your soul to be freed from this is for the vampire to be killed.
I also really like the communal hive aspect of, it's not exactly they're all controlled by Remick, but Remick is their leader, and they all share memories. They all share each other, the experiences of the human, of the mind of the person that was taken.
Like the Faculty or Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah, so absolutely. I really like that aspect. It was a really fun thing to put into a vampire film.
And like Dune.
Yeah, and Dune.
A bit like Dune.
Dune reference.
Can't resist it, man. I mean, it's true. You can see when you become a Reverend Mother, you have the memories of all the Reverend Mothers in the past. It's the exact same thing.
And this is a great ensemble. I think everybody did a great job and brought really great dynamic elements to their roles. Everybody was very specific, but again, he took his time to really draw out all the characters, so we had a great sense for who everybody was. By the time the team up happened at the end,
team up.
We knew who everybody was before the attack happened.
Can I disagree with you about something about the trailers?
Yes.
So the trailers were really entertaining and really good. However, I went into this knowing, just from seeing the trailers in theaters multiple times, I figured one of the twins was going to die at some point, because there's so many sequences of just one of the twins with the tank top, the daytime tank top, trying to roll the cigarette and then shooting the Tommy gun, as well as the fighting with the team up when they're all gearing up for the doors to be opened.
Yeah.
I assumed going into this one of the twins was going to die. I didn't know which one would. So that was sort of, I wouldn't say spoiled, but that's something I feel like they couldn't prevent with the marketing, because otherwise, if they reveal that
they should have photoshopped two Michael B's into that
would have pissed people off. You know what I mean? So I think that's a trailer thing that you can't avoid. It is what it is, but sometimes movies reveal that a little bit. If you think too much, you can look too closely at it.
Well, I thought that just from the poster of him with the smile and the red coloring.
True, and also
so I walked into this movie knowing he was going to be a vampire, but I didn't feel like it was spoiled for me.
No, I totally agree, but also because the main poster is just one twin.
Yeah.
So you kind of know that one of the twins is going to die, but that's if you're looking too much and analyzing too much into it. Also, do you think they could have hidden that Haley was going to be a vampire?
I think they could have hit it,
because that would have been a great twist.
I guessed it before. So in the first trailer, it was just a slow motion shot of her walking towards the camera, which is of her during one of the performances. And then in the second final trailer, we got her full vampire mode, say, "We're gonna kill you all." I think that I have two theories. But first of all, I predicted that she was gonna be a vampire from the first trailer.
Before the blood one.
Before the blood one, I was like, because you get to factor in.
It's pretty easy to notice
when you have a huge actor in a supporting role. Generally, they're going to be playing a villain, because they're going to have fun. They want to play a cool villain role. That's always like if there's a murder mystery or some kind of thing where you don't know who the killer is. Obviously, generally, like if there's a big actor in a small role, they probably took that role because it's a good role. You know what I mean? Haley Steinfeld wouldn't take this role if it was just being Stack's woman. You know what I mean? She took this role because she's going to be a vampire. So when you understand how people accept roles, why would one of the biggest stars alive be in a small role? It's because she ends up being a really cool villain. So I predicted it just from that one shot, and also being her. So I'm guessing that they wanted to hide it at first, but then maybe by the second trailer, maybe the marketing team of Warner Brothers were like, you know what, let's just make this out there. This is a vampire film, and let's show who our vampires are, so that audiences know exactly what this is. And ultimately, I think it helped with marketing.
It's a hot shot.
And it really, it's a great shot. And it really, and honestly, when you look at comments of content online, there's so many comments about Haley Steinfeld villain.
Can you not?
Haley Steinfeld.
Just say Haley. Say Haley.
Like so many comments like, Haley, please bite me. So I think it was smart to show that she was a vampire in the second final trailer.
And her character Mary is an eighth black. Her grandfather is half black, and that's actually Haley in real life too. So she got to explore her family tree, and so her dad is Jewish and her mother is mixed race. So her late maternal grandfather, Ricardo Damascene, was half Filipino and half African American, and so similar to Mary in the film, one of her grandparents was black. Wow. And so she got to explore that and really learn more about her history that way, which is really, and actively explore that in her role, which is really cool.
That's really cool.
Now, I do have a few tiny little cons with this movie outside of that trailer. And I think I'll talk about one of them first, and then we'll go to our intermission if that's cool.
Let's hear it.
So both Stack and Smoke, the Smokestack twins, just such a cool, badass name. These gangsters, like, we need a Smokestack twins gangster movie. Origins. Like, I would see that. I would fucking see
Chicago.
Yeah, in Chicago. That would be so badass, man. How cool would that be?
In Chicago.
And so they both are gone for 7 years in Chicago. They're working for gangs up there. Mm-hmm. Then obviously they steal beer from the Irish, steal wine from the Italians. They frame both families against each other, both cultures against each other. Come back to Mississippi, start their juke joints with beer and wine that they've stolen, plus they just want a juke joint of their own. And I think one of the great large metaphors of this movie is trying to build a world of your own and a world that won't accept you. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously going on here. But I will say that when it came to Stack and Smoke, the relationships I felt a bit forced with just being away for so long, and both women coming back to them so willingly and so quickly. It was a bit fast for me. Mm-hmm. It needed to happen for the plot, obviously, and to get, obviously, Smoke's wife back and to join the crew, to bring that magical element for protection and everything like that, so they can get the exposition of how you defeat vampires and what the hell vampires are for people who don't know what they are. So, necessary part for exposition, as well as fighting the vampires back, is Smoke's ex-partner. What was her name? Beatrice. Right? Yeah, Beatrice. Yeah. And then also,
Beatrice.
With Mary, having not seen Stack for 7 years, desperately wanting to get him back as well immediately. So both those things for me, both the relationships were just so like, oh, you've been gone for 7 years. I don't care. I'm going to take you back right away, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I get that. I understand. And, I absolutely agree. But also, you got to factor in how attractive Michael B. Jordan is.
No, I know. Yeah. Okay. You know what?
He's finally back. Oh my god. I hate you. Oh my god, you're so hot.
That's a good point. You know what? I'm wrong. It makes total sense now. Good looking guy. All right, let's run to our intermission.
I do have one.
Okay.
I have one issue with the film.
Well, wait.
Let me talk. I have one issue for the film. It's not a big one, but I do have an issue with the film. It's my only issue with the film. Otherwise, I think.
Do you have an issue with the film?
It's fabulous, but I'll get to it after the intermission.
Now, before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcast is to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast, where you get access to the weekly episode that is bonus for only patrons. Why did I say it like that? The weekly bonus episode for patrons only, as well as access to the ad-free, commercial-free version of every single episode. You could be listening to the Sinners episode and watching it without the ad breaks for commercials. You also get access to our Discord. Patreon is the most important way to support our show. It helps pay the bills, helps us keep doing this full-time, so thank you to all of our patrons, past, present, and future. Patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Another great way to support the show, besides subscribing on YouTube, which is integral to our growth, and commenting and liking, is leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. These help us get seen by new people, help us chart on podcast platforms, add reputability to the show so that people give us a shot to listen to us once they see we have a couple thousand views and ratings, I'll read a written Apple review out in just a minute. You'll be immortalized forever if you leave an Apple review on Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Also, another great way to support the show, just share us with your family and friends. Share our Instagram videos, our TikTok clips, our YouTube videos. Share our episodes. Anyone you know who loves movies, who loved Sinners, who wants an in-depth breakdown and analysis of any film that they like or love, send them our show.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the number one place to get your posters online today, and use our promo code Raiders10 to always get 10% off, as well as our affiliate link to help you movie daddies get a little cut of the action. Check out that Sinners poster behind James. Like we said, Warner Brothers crushed the marketing for this film, and I love all of the posters they designed and released. This is a beautiful double-sided, huge movie theater poster with the backlit frame. It really pops. Getting that backlit frame makes your posters look movie theater quality. They have a huge selection of all your favorite films and TV shows in their gigantic library, as well as all sorts of sizes, framing, and even the backlight frames like that one behind James. If you want to get some Sinners posters, go to movieposters.com. They also have all sorts of classic films, international films, and collectibles like lobby cards, stills, original half sheets, original half double sheets, one sheets, everything you can imagine As a film collector and film lover, there's no better way to express that passion for movies and TV than by decorating your place out with a bunch of amazing posters. Always go to movieposters.com for your poster needs. Use our promo code Raiders10 to always get 10% off your order. And please use the affiliate link in the description of this bio, as well as the bio of our Instagram. That affiliate link gives us a little bit of a cut of the action so you can help us pay the bills.
All right, everyone, let's get into the intermission. Anthony, you ready?
Ready.
For movie quote competition? Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to exit the donut.
Iron Man 2?
Yeah.
Didn't you do that like 2 weeks ago? No. Like 3 weeks ago? I feel like you did that recently.
The donut one?
Yeah.
Definitely not.
No, sounds familiar.
Let me search my Google Docs because I can do that.
Maybe you did it on your phone. Let's see.
No, I don't do. I always do my trivia
Did
in
James
my
do
Google
that
Docs.
trivia recently?
No, I definitely didn't.
Let's see. I just feel like you did that trivia recently.
No, not
No?
coming up.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's just such a great line. Here's my quote. The world changes. We do not. There lies the irony that finally kills us.
Huh. It's a good line. I don't know.
Interview with the Vampire. Antonio Banderas' Armand.
Good quote.
Yeah.
Guess this movie release year. The Book of Eli.
2012?
2010.
Oh, 2010. Never seen it.
That's right. You've never seen the movie.
Never
You
seen
gotta
it.
watch it. Add it to your watch list, man. You dig it.
Okay, I will. I might dig it. I love Denzel.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool.
What year did From Dusk Till Dawn come out? We've been talking about it a lot. Oh, James just had a little spill.
I would say.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
1996.
Well done. Perfect.
Nice.
You got it exactly right. Exactly right.
Movie pop quiz time. Who directed 2010's The A-Team?
Carnahan.
He did.
Yeah, Joe Carnahan.
Joe Carnahan.
That was a good one. That was fun. What is the highest grossing vampire film ever? And can you name how much it made?
It's got to be one of the Twilight movies. It's got to be.
That's not an answer.
No, I'm just talking to myself, you dickhead. Twilight. A New Moon.
No, incorrect.
Twilight. Saga. Rainbow.
Correct. Eclipse.
Is it? It's Eclipse. Yeah, there we go.
I think it's the second one or third one. $300 million worldwide.
That's it?
Yeah. Vampire movies never make that much. They're not like $1 billion movies.
I thought that the Twilight movies were $1 billion movies or close to.
all of them have made $1 billion.
I thought they were just like raking in the dough.
I mean, maybe that was domestic.
I thought they were Harry Potter successful.
No way. Eclipse box office.
Yeah, double check that.
700 million worldwide.
So yeah, they are Harry Potter level movies.
Yeah, almost. We're talking. Harry makes billions.
Only a couple have made $1 billion.
The rest are like 900.
No, a couple of them are like 6, 7.
No,
Yes, they are.
none of them make 600.
Harry.
None of them
Potter
have made 600, 700.
box
They're
off-
all over. They're all close to 900 at least.
offices. Not true. Chamber of Secrets. Let's see.
Let's see.
Let's see the grosses. Come on, where are they?
None of them have made under $800 million. Not even close.
You think so?
I think so.
Hold on. All right, found it.
What do we got for box office?
Oh man, Prisoner of Azkaban's the lowest at 797. Yeah, you're right. They're all close to $1 billion.
Why is it the lowest grossing?
It's ironic because it's the best one.
Yeah.
And only two broke $1 billion. Do you know which one?
One in the end.
Yeah.
1 and 8.
Yeah.
1 and 8.
7.2. 7.7 billion total. All right, let's move on to any haters this week.
Oh yeah, we got some unsubscribes. We got some sinners in the house.
We got some legit haters on Instagram with we made a clip. You made a clip talking about how we were breaking down the visual effects and CGI in Ghostbusters, the Frozen Empire.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about how we wish movies were being shot practical in location versus New York just doing everything blue screen. And people are coming after us in the most people, 85, 90% of the people are agreed they want practical filmmaking more often. But so many people were like, these bozos don't even know what they're talking about. It's like, and so many people were like, oh, no one complained about the CGI. A lot of people complained about the CGI of that movie.
Yeah.
It's nothing against the artist. I'm just saying that it's just.
Yeah.
I wish they shot practical. All we're saying, like, they should shoot practical.
Yeah.
Came after us though.
100%.
Anyways,
How dare they come after us? Good thing you defended us.
I just block everyone.
You were there. You were there. All right, here we go. X9000. Like number 123. The Mummy, it's a masterpiece. Thanks for the 123rd like, pal. Clement Stone. On the overrated, underrated episode. Unsubscribe. I love Age of Ultron. We respect that. Respect that.
But again, just because it's overrated doesn't mean it's not a good movie.
I don't think it's that good of a movie.
It's still a good movie.
I disagree. I don't think it's a good movie.
I think it's still pretty fun.
What, you gonna watch it anytime soon?
Age of Ultron?
Yeah.
Nah.
Okay. So you don't want to have a pretty fun time anytime soon?
No, I mean, there's a lot of other movies I like more than Age of Ultron that I'll watch over it.
Sure.
There are plenty of good movies that I'm not going to rewatch very soon.
Okay. Movie chat. Ryan Core. No movie quote competition? Unsubscribed. Yeah, we don't do it on the movie chats because it's like it breaks our flow with that one. Breaks the flow because we don't have notes for that episode.
Which one?
For movie chats.
Yeah, that's just all improvised.
Yeah, so we don't. It's not like we can end intermission and then we go to the next bit. Like it's just total vibing, just straight aura.
Yeah, just straight aura.
Otwin man, Glenn Powell isn't fighting the tornado. Spoiler warning. Unsubscribed. Sorry for the spoilers. All right, this one's good. Dude with the spilt beer. Hi, I'm that one dude from the opening night of The French Dispatch. I just want to make one thing clear. I am not an idiot. And yes, I did get laid that night, even with the bear accident. I have that much riz. Even if you even knew what that means. With all that said, since you called me an idiot and don't think I have any game, I have to unsubscribe.
Clearly.
Sorry, dude with the spilt beer. You do have lots of riz if you pulled that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that guy listened to us.
Yeah. Congrats on getting laid. After spilling a beer on your date.
An entire beer.
All right, Aaron Walker. Saw the movie titled Movie Cat and thought Judah was hosting this episode. On Patreon, I accidentally wrote Movie Cat instead of Movie Chat. Not on the other platform, just on Patreon.
Movie Cat.
Sadly, it was just you guys again. Unsubscribed. Oh man, it was so funny. So funny. I panicked. I was like, oh, I checked YouTube and I checked Spotify. I was like, okay, thank God I did Movie Chat.
Honestly, it'd be funny. You'd probably get a lot of engagement.
Yeah. People would be like, what is this?
Movie Cat.
Michael Angel Gonzalez. What do you guys think of The A-Team? I think it's a very underrated film. Silly action comedy. Everyone looks like they're having so much fun, and the action scenes are over the top in the best way. If you don't agree, I must unsubscribe.
What are the odds that that's a
pretty
comment
weird
on my freaking intermission questions?
So spooky.
That is spooky.
Wow, so weird.
That is, I'm tripping out.
We already agreed with you before we even read your intermission.
That is so odd.
So cool.
What are the odds?
We're in a simulation.
It's like 1 in a million.
One in a trillion.
Probably 1 in a trillion.
Yeah, 1 in a
I mean, at the end of the day.
All right, Arsenio. Liking The Rise of Skywalker makes me want to unsubscribe. I mean it.
That's just Anthony.
I like Star Wars movies, even except for Attack of the Clones.
Do you now?
Yeah, I like all the Star Wars movies.
You like Star Wars movies?
No, I mean I like all of them.
Yeah.
Except for Attack of the Clones. I have a good time with all of them. It's not that serious for me. I don't give a fuck about like the familial ties. I'm fine. I'm okay. It doesn't bother me.
You're fine with Palpatine just
I don't care.
Resurrected.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
I just like it.
Well, it's like I don't know. I don't want to talk about Star Wars.
You're cool with them killing Han Solo?
Well, he wanted to get killed.
Who, Harrison?
Yeah.
Well,
he's begging to get killed.
Was he?
Yeah, he was begging Lucas to kill him. He was.
That's pretty funny.
He was pitching it for years.
Lucasfilm, not George.
George. No, he's pitching it to George during the originals. He wanted George to kill off Han Solo.
Oh, but I'm talking about the new ones, though.
I know, but still what Harrison wanted.
We'll see. Yeah. Maybe his opinion changed later on.
This isn't an unsubscribe, but it's a really funny one. From Simeon Max. Thanks, noobs. It's a great list on our 25 best Asian films of the century. I've been watching Asian cinema for 40 years, and I'm impressed that you can appreciate cinema from the Far East. Good job, Americans.
Well, the funny thing is, it's not like it's the Far East, but I mean, the internet exists, so it's not like you have to like take the Silk Road to get there. Like it's fun. I appreciate the comment, but it's not that hard to access anymore.
That's why when people say I've never heard of these movies or like I don't watch, it's like you can find any movie you want. Just Google it.
Yeah,
just Google it. Yeah.
It's people like watching the same 30 movies over and over again.
Yeah. All right, next one. Current Senshi. Unsubscribed from France. Hi, guys. Believing I speak English at a decent level and having to search for a video game called Oregon Trail. Oregon Trail. A zombie game, maybe? And for you not knowing, Romain Gavras, the revolutionary French director, who did the most intense action one-shot opening sequence that took 2 months of practice in the movie Athena. You have to see that one. I'm afraid I must unsubscribe Desabonné. Pronounced like Lisa Bonet, but Desabonné. Oh, I said it right. Thanks. Unfortunately,
Is that how you say unsubscribe in French?
Yeah.
Disabonné.
Desabonné. But unfortunately, I enjoy the way you say phenomenal too much. So I have to resubscribe. Keep up the amazing work. Thanks, pal. Desabonné. Thanks for not desabonnéing. I don't think you guys use a gerund like we do, but no INGs in France. Ace Guru. Remember, on our overrated, underrated. Remember, if you don't like the same movies as these guys, do they assume you aren't a real film boy? Unsubscribe. No, you're always a film boy. Josh Honeywood, I politely request you devote an entire podcast to Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I'd like to think you'd agree it's worthy of your time, and if not, I guess I'll have to unsubscribe.
Great flick.
It's a good one, man. It's a really good one. Ibarra, Gosling in the thumbnail of overrated, underrated, but no, put the money in the bag.
Did we not do the
When
impression?
Place Beyond the Pines is mentioned, unsubscribe.
Heads in the air. The money in the bag. I
We didn't do it.
I want to meet Gosling so bad, just so that I could do
You
that
gotta do it,
impression
man.
for.
Get your hands in the air.
Put the money in the bag. All right, fine.
Fuck. Okay. Kat Miaru. Oh my god, Effie was advisor and escort to PETA and Katniss. In Haymitch's time, she was escort and stylist. Unsubscribe for not remembering the great Elizabeth Banks in this role.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I revisited Katniss. I've read the books too. That's the funny thing. A long time ago. A long fucking time. Only once. They're great books.
Yeah. All right, I cut off this person's name. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, whoever you are. But they said, I think you guys are going to be really surprised by the Hershey movie. Milton Hershey actually has a really interesting story. I think warrants the movie being made. Definitely give it a shot before it comes out. Once it comes out. If you don't, I might have to unsubscribe.
No, yeah, definitely. We're just joking around. Because
yeah.
if you're watching the studio and they're making fun of Kool-Aid, and
Yeah.
so like that's why we're making fun of Hershey's in the Hershey movie.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I'm sure there's a cool story there.
Ruben, unsubscribed. Alexander Skarsgård, Joel Kinnaman, Anthony James. Yeah, who could tell the difference? James apparently thinks they're the same person.
Hey, people make mistakes.
Final one, Sam and Salve. No way. I don't know how I missed this. It was a Bronson Tom Hardy fact. I thought I've listened to all your episodes and knew all the Bronson facts. Now I feel unaccomplished. Unsubscribe. No, you are accomplished.
Isn't Joel Kinnaman Swedish also?
Yes. Yeah, he was in Dragon Tattoo.
It's like the same person.
You said they looked exactly the same.
They do look similar.
No, they don't.
He looks like he could be in their family.
No way.
Joel Kinnaman, yeah, I think he
I
looks,
disagree.
He looks like he could be in their family.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. He was great in The Killing. Remember The Killing?
Oh, dude, that show slapped.
Oh, man, that was a good show. That was a good show when it came
That was
out.
a one-off, right? Was it one season or was it two?
One season.
Yeah.
They did a couple other seasons as like their own investigations, but it never really took off because they never really. Maria Inos and Joel Kinnaman were really great together, and so once that was gone, the other seasons.
It's sort of like
never
True Detective, right?
Yeah. The other seasons didn't really quite work, but
They never do.
It was a great season of.
They
shit
never do.
television.
Like there's one season of like two great chemistry and the story's phenomenal, and then they just can't capture it again. True Detective was the same way, and The Killing's the same way too.
Lots of rain in that.
But
movie,
that's a
in that
great show. If no one's ever seen it, The Killing, Maria Inos, and then Joel Kinnaman.
Alexander Skarsgård.
Great crime drama, detectives investigating a murder.
In Seattle.
So good. Very rainy.
I know. I just said that.
So good. Okay, we have a great 5-star review written on Apple Podcasts.
Let's hear it.
It's just me, John. Hey, John.
Hey, John. Hey, it's just me, John.
New favorite listen on the drive to and from work. 5 stars. Over the last week or so, this has become my go-to show. The latest episode, as of today, overrated or underrated, was hilarious. It was pretty funny.
Nice.
The long list was very entertaining to see where my own biases fell alongside or against these twos. Keep up the great work. Oh, yeah. Princess Bride is overrated.
Oh, my brother. My brother from another mother.
Also, there's another great 5-star. It's a short one that I'd love to read. It's from Beer Can Sniper 48. Best show ever. 5 stars. OMG. Why is Anthony so sexy?
Ooh.
5 stars.
Hey
All
there.
caps.
Hey there.
Beer Can Sniper.
Beer can sniper.
Careful, he's taken.
Yeah, I'm taking. I'm sorry, but you can still admire from a distance, from your screen. It's the hair. I'm growing it out. That's why.
I'm telling you, man. Finally.
Growing it out.
Anthony, what is your streaming recommendation for this episode?
Black Sunday, which you can rent on Prime or watch it on Tubi. It's an amazing film it was made in Italy by Mario Bava. And it's a vampire film, but not like vampires like but more back then, vampires weren't exactly what like movies like this are. They're more just the undead, demonic presences trying to suck the life force out of people, but no like fangs or anything. But it's an unbelievable film. It's about this witch that is killed and resurrected 200 years later to enact vengeance. And it's some of the most amazing, astounding black and white cinematography of all time. It's considered one of the great gothic horrors ever. Inspired a lot of your favorite horror filmmakers. Robert Eggers pulled a lot from it for his Nosferatu adaptation. Like, how Nosferatu is standing with the 2 hounds? That shot's in Black Sunday. It's just unbelievable cinematography and one of the great Italian horror films ever.
Cool.
But it's in English.
Have selected an animated film that won Best Animated Feature this previous year at the Academy Awards. Flow is on Max now.
Should I get Juno to watch it?
Yeah. You should watch it.
I've been seeing people watch it with their cats, and the cats love
it. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal.
Phenomenal!
It really is. It's an excellent movie. So definitely check it out if you haven't had a chance to get around to it.
Okay. I heard that a Shiba Inu is the villain.
I wouldn't call it the villain, but
because my girlfriend wants to get a Shiba Inu and she saw Flo, she's like, "Oh man, they made the Shiba Inu the villain."
Exactly. I wouldn't call him the villain. He's just a dick.
He's just an asshole.
Just a dick. All right, let's get back into Sinners. And Anthony, you teased something that you had a slight issue with Sinners. What was that?
I forgot for a second, but I was like, "Oh shit, what was it?" Okay, I remember. I thought that the movie was brilliant, but there was just one thing that, as it happened when it was over, I was like, I had an issue with it. It's not a big deal, but the main attack, the big attack of when, what's her name, invites everyone in, Grace, when Grace invites all the vampires in because she's afraid that they're going to go for her daughter, so she's like, fuck it, let's just go.
Come on in, you motherfuckers! Yeah. I can't remember what she said. It was something like that.
And then the doors open and the vampires attack. It was a great battle sequence, and I liked how, because it's like we see so many movies where people fight off monsters so easily. So I liked how everybody was getting like fucking torn to pieces pretty quickly. Like,
and Grace, burned
Grace,
alive.
Grace dead, burned alive,
crisp.
Yeah, burnt to a crisp. But what happened was they were overwhelmed by vampires. Like, it's like 40 vampires inside. Mm-hmm. But then, in a matter of seconds, the vampires like left and allowed for the 4 surviving heroes to escape upstairs. Mm-hmm. But I was like, where'd all the vampires go?
I think I can explain from a different perspective of
why.
Because they just ran outside, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's an issue, but I was just confused about why the attack ended. And why they were able to. It seemed like there was no escape, and then they escaped.
So I think the vampires let them live because they wanted to turn them.
Oh,
so when you look at it from the perspective of they're trying to build this community, they don't want to kill, they want to turn people into vampires.
Which is why Stack was pissed when he killed his woman.
Exactly.
Because he's like, you killed, like he wanted to live with her forever.
He made that promise to Beatrice where she said, you free me. Don't let me turn into a vampire. Free me because there's someone waiting for us. Our child is waiting for us and I want to go to them.
Yeah.
So kill me before I turn into one. However, I think that's why the vampires, they came in with this big attack, but they didn't want to kill them all. And obviously,
They didn't want to kill the ones that they love.
yeah, the ones they love, but they didn't want to kill. They had to show force, and they had to scare them. But also, from my perspective, I'm like, oh, they don't want to kill them all.
Oh my God! Thank you.
Yeah,
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, you're welcome,
That
dude.
makes so much more sense
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
That makes so because like the attack would happen. Attack was happening.
They
and
could
then-
have killed them all.
Yeah,
they
because
could have fucking torn them apart.
That's what I thought. Oh my God.
So
Okay.
I like the motivation of the vampires. They're
Yeah.
not just trying to kill and suck blood the whole movie. They're not just hungry. They're trying to create a
We
community.
hungry.
They're trying to create a community. And they're trying to create a family. I like that aspect of it.
Okay.
They could just bust in there and fuck them all
Yeah.
up after they get invited in.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Because that part of the film, I was just confused in the moment of how they how the attack just ended. That makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
And that's why I think Stack just runs out once he breaks down the door and
Yeah.
he books it. Because
He's not trying to kill his brother.
He doesn't want to get killed, but also he wants to eventually get them all turned. Because now he's got the hive mind. He knows everything. And now they're going to go formulate a plan, or their plan is to eventually lure them out one by one.
Oh my dude, that you just really helped me with that scene very much. Like, thank you for that.
And now you don't have any issues with the movie.
Now I really like it. Now I like it. Honestly, yeah. I think it works really well.
Yeah.
And it fits in line with and I even mentioned earlier, like I just didn't make the connection.
And I guess you could argue with that sequence, Grace letting all the vampires in, could you say is that plot armor to get this big attack to happen? I think Coogler did a good job of making her feel so much grief that she doesn't care about dying. She's just trying to stop them from going after it. Because what the vampires do so well in this movie is manipulation, and also they're able to put on a mask and say specific things that bring down people's defenses, but also make them terrified to give up themselves.
Yeah, because I think once they realize there's no way they're going to open the doors, once they threat her child, then she's like, the only way I can protect my child is if the only chance we have of saving her is to invite them in.
And Grace has a great perspective in addition to that, where she says, all right, let's say we last the night, and then tomorrow happens. Then what? We're looking over our shoulders the rest of life. We run away. They're going to catch us. Then they're just going to kill the whole town.
Yeah.
We have to stop them. So Grace's perspective is, fuck it. We're all going to die anyways. Let's just try to kill them all while we can.
Fuck it!
So I think that I think for me is why that sequence works. Did you get the Thing reference in this movie?
The Thing reference.
There's a great The Thing sequence in Sinners.
Tell me.
So there's like 8 people inside the juke after all the vampires are outside.
Oh, the garlic.
And they're trying to figure out
yeah.
who's a vampire. So obviously in The Thing, they put the hot coil in the blood to see whose blood reacts to it.
Let me show you what I already know.
And so we have in this movie in Sinners, I guarantee this is a reference to The Thing that Coogler put in. Everyone has to eat a piece of garlic to prove that they're not a vampire. It's really fun. And we almost have Delroy Lindo almost turns into a vampire, which is really fun. And it's a pretty cool sequence. And no one is actually a vampire, which is fortunate for them in that situation. But then one of them has a funny line like, you couldn't get the pickled kind.
Yeah, he named it as his favorite horror film.
Yeah.
And I saw an interview yesterday.
So I think that was clearly a reference to The Thing.
Yeah, that's. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't realize that connection.
Yeah, like this movie has so many great references because we have that with The Thing. Then we have the From to Dusk Till Dawn references, the Faculty references, and I'm sure there are more after you watch more rewatches of this film.
Yeah, for me, the faculty references and connections were of the turned vampires trying to convince their former friends and family to join them as like it's like it's peaceful, it's better like this. That's
Take away pain, fear,
exactly.
it's all gone.
Yeah.
So even though they're replicating the personality of the person they've taken over, it's still not the same. But yeah, so I'm glad we talked about that. I also
Me too. I'm really glad we talked about it. Let's want to talk about the big scene.
I want to talk about the music first, if that's cool, because that leads
we'll
into
tie
that.
into it, yeah.
That leads into that. So obviously, Ludwig did an incredible job in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
The Oscar winner, he's king, man. And I've been listening to the music all day, and he and his wife, who is the music producer on this film as well, they did such a great job. And Ludwig plays a bunch of instruments on this movie, and there's this great connection, and they really embrace blues music of the South and of black musicians. And Ludwig actually has a connection to a lot of blues musicians. His father was a huge fan. He grew up listening to records and music of these great guitarists and blues musicians that his father was obsessed to. So this is something that Ludwig's always been a fan of, always has played blues music in his personal life. He's a great guitarist, and him and Miles together working on the songs. They basically, Ludwig and his wife, they set up shop in New Orleans for the entirety of pre-production filming, where they were working with many of the actors who have a lot of songs. Obviously, Miles sings a lot in this movie, so don't several of the other actors. Haley has a few songs in this movie. They made a soundtrack album in addition to the score. So they worked through all the music together, capturing the blues essence, the great guitars, the slides. Everything sounds so authentic and so real and so excellent. And then, fucking hell, man, once the vampires start showing up and attacking, he just goes straight heavy metal, goes straight Metallica. And it's so incredible. You know, it's just euphoric. It's like satanic religion with electric guitars. And he's always wanted to do a guitar-based score, which is so fun. You know, violin for Oppenheimer was one of the great strengths of that music. But here, using guitar as the base of the entire soundtrack was so excellent. And Lars Ulrich, the drummer of Metallica,
I saw his name.
He actually played on the album. He played drums in the album. I saw his name in the credits as well. And so that was one of my favorite parts of the movie is the music is just takes this movie to a different level. Maybe my favorite part of the entire film is the music and how much there is in the film and how many different genres it explores. But also, when this vampire stuff starts happening in the second to third act, Coogler and Ludwig, it seems like they're just having so much fun, just really tying to movies like The Lost Boys, like the guitar riffs in the background while people are talking, like electric guitar, and then the smashing heavy metal drums and guitar riffs. It's just so excellent and so fun and so camp. At the same time, it's so self-aware.
It was, for me, it felt like traditionally in the past, instead of like the big organ chords in a horror movie, it was big electric guitar chords and they used the guitar instead of what would be used, an organ would be used in those instances. And it really felt like once you heard those electric chords, I was like, I'm getting 80s vibes in such a fun way. So I agree. I think the electric guitar was a great addition, and obviously ties to the guitar playing and that we'll see in this film as well as in the future for Sammy Moore when he becomes an electric guitarist. Right now, just playing acoustic at the time, but the music was phenomenal and it was so fun.
And it ties into the magic, and so we'll lead into the time mashup where in this film, with the magic, with the folklore and connection to vampires, music has an ability to transcend time and culture, and vampires or evil are able to sense this power. You know, this is sort of alluded to with Sammy's father, the preacher. He says that great line, you keep dancing with the devil, you're going to bring it home one day, which he eventually does. But we learn through the lore and the folklore and the magic of this world that Coogler wrote and created that vampires or evil are able to perceive people that are able to transcend all of this with music and this incredible ability to transcend time with their music.
Yeah, and then this is visually the best part of the film, I would say. And it's two big shots. It's the big oneer where we see the evolution of culture over time. From the past, from the ancient cultures, from isolated cultures to even the present and the future cultures, and a combination of culture in terms of how people dress, the music people play, how they dance, and it evolves over time. And we saw it all played out in one room, which was really exciting. And I thought it was just visually so interesting and so fun to put into a film like this, and had a lot of great resonance to it. And then that being a great wonder shot. And then the next scene, at the end of that shot, it pans up to the ceiling burning down. And then we're outside. And the entire group of those people, they're outside performing for us, what we think is us. But the camera lifts up, backtracks, and then it pulls down behind Remick and his new turned vampires. And then we see Remick. This is what Remick's seeing. We see he's seeing the evolution of time from the past to the future, from this music that's being played.
Yeah, because as explained in the movie, Remick reveals to Sammy that he's one of these people that are capable of playing music so truthfully that it can connect to the spirits of different eras. Anthony brought that up earlier in the episode. He wants to access this power. It would allow him to reconnect with the spirits of his loved ones who are long gone. He's been alive for 1,300 years, and he talks about how his home was taken from him. And he wants to break into that juke joint and only offers to spare the others if they hand over Sammy. Like, he's all I want is Sammy. If you guys give me Sammy, you guys can all live. And Sammy actually tries to give himself up to save everyone, which is a very honorable thing to do. And so this gives a bunch of empathy and emotional motivation for this vampire. And I think that's one of the great strengths, is giving this undead person, this undead creature who's been alive for so long, who's a murderer who kills, has a ton of humanity for an antagonist.
And Sammy's role is great because his father gives him that warning of, if you entertain, like
I said earlier, if you dance with the devil, I literally just said it. If you get too close, you dance with the devil too much, you'll eventually bring him home. Basically.
Yeah. And this ties to the title of Sinners, because in ancient myths and ancient stories, biblical stories, sins were, the consequences of sins were horrible, and encounters with demons and darkness and evil spirits as a consequence of sinning. And so in a way, it lines up with ancient storytelling and myth-telling, where someone who entertains sin, someone who, and his father warned him, he's playing music for vagabonds, for criminals, for people who are sinning, and he's basically playing music while they sin, essentially, in his father's eyes. That does result in the consequences of the devil knocking on his own doorstep, essentially. And so it's very tied to, biblical storytelling.
And the third act's really good. I just wish it was a little longer. It felt slightly rushed once the vampires start to happen, and then leading to the sunrise. Yeah. And the final battle, basically the big climax, is really entertaining. And obviously what happens is they're all outside as Sammy's trying to escape. Stack and Smoke are going against each other, and Stack is trying to turn Smoke. And Smoke even almost goes to him earlier in the film because he'd rather be with him than not have him in his life and join him in this new kind of living as an undead person forever, where they can be together. But their fight's really entertaining, and again, the Mojo necklace protects Smoke from being bitten by Stack, who's able to hold his ground against him to help Sammy get away. Then Sammy and Smoke are out, and they're trying to escape. Of course, Remick and the others catch up to him. They fight back, and I love the when he smashes Remick with the guitar, and we find out through that the metallic section of it was made of silver and stuck inside of his head, burning him, which is really interesting. And then all the vampires are clearly feeling his pain because they're all screaming in agony as well as it happens. And then the sunrise comes up, and
after he stabs him, he impales him.
That's right. You're right. He impales him with the guitar, right? The neck of the guitar.
No, it was a spear.
Never mind. One of the
spears.
And then the sunrise comes up and burns all the vampires till they're nothing but ash, except for Remick's is definitely longer. And the shot of Remick burning on fire was magnificent. Yeah. Holy crap. It looks so good in the 65, 70 millimeter projection for IMAX. And then it cut to, it was IMAX full screen, and then it was Ultra Panavision back-to-back shots, but it worked so well. And that shot was freaking awesome to see him burning like that. But I will say, it felt real quick that the sun came up. The sun came up really fast. It is what it is. You got to end the movie. You got to kill them all at the sunrise. It's fine with me. But it was it was like someone hit fast forward.
No, yeah,
Bruce Almighty hit fast forward on it.
No, I agree. From battle sequence to the ending of the vampires is probably not even 10 minutes. So I agree. It flew by.
But I'm talking about like as they go outside and then the sun starts to come up and it gets them all like that. Yeah. It was like seconds. Yeah, if that makes sense.
I agree. But I mean, it's a movie.
Yeah, but I think the point is, like, as soon as the sun is piercing the horizon, that's when it's affecting them. I think that's probably what Coogler's going for.
Yeah.
But it was awesome, and I liked the ending a lot. And obviously, the post-credit scenes, it was interesting for Coogler to do 2 post-credit scenes because it's part of Marvel's DNA. And so the first post-credit scene is pretty long, and it felt similar to The Brutalist, not post-credit scene, the ending of The Brutalist, though.
Oh, yeah, I thought of The Brutalist,
the epilogue,
yeah.
Where in the first post-credit scene of Sinners, where Sammy's, it's 1992, 60 years later, and he's a famous blues musician. He never gave up. He drove away from home after he left his father in the chapel. He's got this vicious scar on his face, and he's just ripping guitar on stage, and he's at the bar. Bar's closing, and who walks in but Stack and Mary, who are still vampires. They're still young, very 90s attire. And Stack, who says he's got all his records, he's got all his albums, and Sammy asks, how'd you survive? And basically what happened was Smoke made a deal with him is just don't go after Sammy. And I'll not tell anyone that you survived, and I'll let you get away. I'll let you like hide in the house or whatever, hide in the juke. And that was their deal. Just don't kill Sammy. And then they come. Sammy plays guitar for them, which is really cool. And it was a pretty fun sequence, and it sort of sets the door open for a potential sequel or prequel here. I don't know.
Yeah, and we there was a shot of Mary running away before the rest of the vampires were killed.
That's right.
So
yeah.
they did show that she did escape
Yeah.
the sunlight before the sun ever came up.
Yeah. So I liked the post credit scene. The second post credit scene was, I think, just entirely just for mood and aesthetic. It was just a great shot of Miles ripping guitar.
I think that it was a scene that they couldn't fit into the cut of the film. And so I think it was nice to put it at the end to cap.
No, that's not what. No, it wasn't like, what do we do with this? He planned it.
Oh, he planned that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Coogler planned that for the end of the movie.
Oh, it was nice.
Yeah.
Did you know that Nolan, Emma Thomas, and Jennifer Lame helped him out on this film?
Yeah, for 65
Yeah,
millimeter.
shooting on the IMAX 65, and then with editing. It's so cool.
And also, I mean, Smoke has his own ending as well, so that's Stack's ending.
Yeah.
But Smoke has a great ending too. He's really sort of the lone survivor here besides Sammy, who goes away. But he stays behind because he has another evil coming for him. It wasn't just the vampires that are coming for him. Obviously, because the first vampires to get turned in this movie were members of the KKK, his uncle is the Grand Master of the KKK, the guy who sold them the sawmill. He's coming. It was all a dupe. He sold them the sawmill, and then they were just gonna come back and kill him the next day. And so, since he's a vampire, everyone knows that knowledge now, and that's what they tell them when they're trying to coerce them to come out halfway through the film. And so, Smoke has to deal with this. What's he do? Gets his Tommy gun ready. He's shaking so much he can't even light a cigarette over what's happened that night. But he's able to kill everyone in the KKK and the Grand Master, while taking a lethal wound, takes off his mojo necklace to die and be with his family, which I think was a great ending.
It was interesting that the two big shots in the teaser trailer, him with the cigarette and then him firing the Tommy gun, ended up being like the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was unexpected.
Yes, it's interesting because when you reflect back on the marketing, I think, after you see the movie, or I do, I think about the trailers especially. And that was one of the coolest shots of just Michael B. with the Tommy gun. But you can tell when you watch that trailer that that's clearly not going to be him fighting a vampire because the sun's up.
Well, I thought it would. I mean, there's vampire movies where vampires are out in daylight.
True. I mean, that's a good point.
Blade.
Yeah, Blade. But
Just
they got
get some sunscreen.
They got some good sunblock. But I think Coogler ended it this way on purpose because he's showing you, yeah, the vampires are evil, but this is a bigger evil. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of, like I said, it's a vampire movie for 45 minutes, but there's still the rest of the film has really nothing to do with vampires in a good way.
Yeah.
And it shows the other evils that exist in the world, not just because often vampire movies just focus on that as the evil, but Sinners focuses on the bigger and broader evils in the world besides vampires.
Yeah, he used the framework of a genre picture to kind of sneak in a film about many other things. And like you said,
It's like Joker.
Yeah, like you said, this could have been like just a great Prohibition era film on its own. You know what I mean?
Could have been.
Yeah. And it was awesome.
Yeah, and so I have a couple of interesting facts. So remember this got delayed earlier in the year. It was supposed to come out.
You got a
when
new poster.
Yeah, so Mickey 17. The poster we have, it's
March
actually
11th?
for March 7th.
March 7th?
It
Wow.
was supposed to come out on March 7th, and then it got pushed like a week, and then it traded and swapped dates with Mickey 17. So Mickey 17 and Sinners were connected with Warner Brothers, obviously for distribution, but they were flip-flopping the dates back and forth. And this is because I didn't know until I looked it up. They had to switch places because to accommodate for the scarcity of film development labs and allow more time for post-production work on Sinners. And so they set the release date for April 18th. So they needed another month and a half-ish for all the lab processing for all the film they shot.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
And also, inspiration behind this, we talked about this Coogler and his uncle, and this is a very family-oriented story in terms of a reference to his past and his family tree. But he came up with this idea while doing dishes one night. After he finished Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Coogler was doing dishes, listening to Wang Dang Doodle, a 1960 blues song about a crazy all-night party with a colorful cast of characters, and lightning struck. Fueled by a lifetime of love for horror, he developed he committed to figuring out a plot for this sort of vibe in this early blues scene, merging that with vampires.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Music.
Lightning strikes, man. Inspiration strikes in the weirdest of times. Pretty fun. But, man, I love this movie. It was so cool.
It was a fantastic vampire movie, I gotta say. It's a really great time. And, it looks fantastic. And, studios and filmmakers have been so hesitant to use film stocks, and I think that, audiences, especially film lovers, when we hear about 70 millimeter, when we hear about IMAX film, it gets us excited, and people have been going nuts anticipating to see this on the big screen. It happens with Nolan films, it happens with Tarantino films, PTA films. They did a great job, A24, with pushing The Brutalist. People want this analog format. A lot of us prefer it.
Looks so good.
Yeah, it looks great, and I think that this movie being a big success, it looks like it's poised to make at least $200 million, which is really great.
It needs to make about 180 to return profit.
Yeah, so I think it can. If it hits 50 million domestic, that's a great start. It means good signs for the international market too. I think it could absolutely pull 200 million, but it shows that there's a craving for analog, and there always will be. Yes, digital's never going to go away, and it's always going to be the new Goliath of film production, but there are people that want film. They want to see film projected. They want to see analog. We love it. And so I think that the success of this, and hopefully PTA's film in September does really well, encourage studios to say yes to huge film productions with film format, and not just being Chris Nolan alone.
Yeah, and also we have to shout out Autumn Durald Arkapaw, cinematographer for this film, Coogler's DP.
She's great.
So incredible. This movie looked fantastic. And, I mean, so many great long takes. The oneer going on the different sides of the markets of the streets, where we have the market that has all the white customers and the segregated version of the black customers. That oneer with little Julie going back and forth was just one of my favorite shots of the entire year, but she did a fantastic job. This movie looked so good.
Excellent work. Excellent work.
All right, that's our breakdown of Sinners.
Sinners.
Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Thanks so much for tuning in as always. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Leave those likes, comments, and subscribe everywhere else, like on Spotify and Apple. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Instagram, TikTok, find us. Become a patron today, patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Do all of the things that help us do all of the things that we do. Take care.
See you next time.
This episode was brought to you by our chosen one patrons, Jacob Kossler and Nicholas Martin. Thanks so much, boys. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kossler. Opening music by Chase Jackson.